Hello everyone, welcome to the Smite Draft League playoff semifinals. In fact, Divine Division going to be a good one. I'm Deelo, joined here by Akamaru7, also known as Ken, also known as Chinchino. What is that? What is that one again, Ken?
It's a Pokemon named Minchino. It's my favorite.
That one.
I got a
Ken,
soft spot for that Gen 5 Dex.
Exactly. How we feeling, dude?
I'm feeling great, man. I'm ready to get into some games, and I'm so happy you're joining me on the little icon desk. It's been a little lonely ever since.
You kind of started the wave, low key. If you really have to credit anyone, it is you who's kind of getting the cyber initiative going on for those familiar with my MK lore. But, it's good to be here in the pixelated flesh. Just, blinking a little bit every once in a while just to let y'all know what's up. But, Ken, man, as far as what we got going on here matchup-wise, it's going to be a doozy. Seismic Shockwaves versus the Kingslayers. Shockwaves looking to shake up Kingslayers' undefeated record. What can you tell me about these two teams?
I mean, what isn't there to say about Kingslayers, man? They've been the dominant force within this division for a very, very long time, and it's going to be difficult to imagine a world where they don't win. But I mean, if there's going to be a team to do it, you're looking at the Shockwaves, man. These guys, looking at how they form their team together, they're the squad. The trust that these guys have together, Seismic Shockwaves are probably the closest team within the Divine Division itself. And if someone's going to pull together something crazy, something wacky, something wild to bring the Kings down, I'm excited to see what they do.
I would definitely agree with that. Not only just are they close, but they have fun. If you pop into their team chat, man, they have a good time and they know to let the good times roll and not let the losses do anything but roll right off their shoulders. They don't get down when they're down a game. And that's going to be incredibly important when the pressure is mounting, your back's against the wall. You want to make sure you can keep a cool head and keep on trucking forward. But we're trucking right forward here with these bans. We got Pele, God of the Penta, off the map. Athena, Susano is going to be Seismic Shockwave's last ban there. On the reverse side, you have Reyhum being taken off, as well as Freya and the Chernobog. What are your thoughts on those bans?
Very strong opening bans. A lot of focus on these just general prio characters, with maybe a little look into that Susano as the one single we're gonna take away this god kind of pick. Loving the Amaterasu coming out. It's a lot of meta that we're seeing today. Just a lot of characters in this current state of the game that are coming in there with the threat to really take over every single part. And it seems like Seismic Shockwaves and Kingslayers are looking to play this one the straight way. We don't want you guys to get what's going to be really good. We're going to play our games and we're going to try to play them well. Shockwaves definitely being smart to take away a lot of that jungle focus from the Kingslayers. Wyvern is just such a big threat on the map, but it looks like they're sneaking their way in with the Thor. An amazing pressure pick to make sure that he has presence on all sides of the map. On the other side, Seismic Shockwaves with the Ama, it's really good on that counter dive and being able to hold out in those team fights to make sure that Kingslayers aren't really able to get that much momentum. But man, there are just so many good picks out there. Thor Ganesh is going to form a really great aggressive core for Kingslayers, and I'm looking forward to how the rest of this draft goes and how Shockwaves try to counter that.
I do like Shockwave starting off the Amaterasu. Like you said, it's also nice because it plays into another thing you mentioned, which is their synergy. Amaterasu, you're kind of sacrificing the laning phase a little bit. She's not meant for that. The Dazzling Offensive is a fantastic team fight tool, though, and that's where Seismic Shockwaves are looking to hedge their bets. Another great team fight ultimate going to come here from the Charon. Going to be an interesting pick there, locked in on the side of Shockwaves. As far as Guardian on Guardian action here, who do we think's got that leg up?
I'm thinking especially in the context of this draft, I am kind of leaning towards the Ganesh. I feel like that pick just has so much strong synergy with forming forming either a back to front play style or just getting in there, man. That the ability for Ganesh to control large amounts of space on the map and keeping drives out of his carry's face is just unparalleled, especially right now. Charon's really, really good at getting into the fight and being annoying throughout the whole place, but Ganesh just has so much impact that it's going to be really hard to pick a support that's going to do that at all. The only real top of the meta support that can do the same thing is Athena, and that's banned out. So Kingslayers are taking a really, really great spot with this top three, and rounding that out with the Agni, it's a team fight team. They got the big circles, and they're gonna pop them down.
And big circles are always scary, man. Geometry usually does win the day, and when you have a simple formula to success, as it is when it comes to just dropping 3 big bombs in your head and then dropping a Thor bomb to just make it even more insult to injury, it's gonna be a rough win condition for Seismic Shockwaves to
Mhm.
evade here, and indeed they're gonna try to put the moves on them with the Apollo pick. They're gonna lock in their dual lane. What's Apollo gonna bring this team that Kingslayers have got to watch out for?
Apollo brings a lot of cross map pressure that's going to be able to at least match what the Thor is able to put out. You can't really be super safe in a fight when you have an Apollo on the map, and especially being able to rotate your ADC out of dual lane towards, say, Pyromancers or Fire Giants when the other team is not expecting it. It's a huge boon to your team, and it allows you to play a lot more comfortably across the map. So there's a lot of global pressure, but I do think the Apollo is going to be key to how the Seismic Shockwaves want to play. This team is definitely one that wants to be all together and wants to force the issue before Kingslayers can really bear their comp together. And so I'm looking to
Mhm.
Seismic Shockwaves to be aggressive on that map, because when you have Amaterasu and Apollo on there, you're gonna want to make them powerful.
It's a good point there. Just there's a global presence on each side here. So in a sense, yes, Seismic Shockwave is going to be looking to that Apollo as a key playmaker, but it might just be a battle between the two, despite not being the same role. The two global presences here. It's going to be
Oh yeah.
Wyvern on this Thor, likely, which is where you want to see Wyvern on a god that can really make a lot of action happen wherever they so please, versus ZakuZz here on this Apollo. So it's going to be a case of, can you make sure you're expending those ultimates properly? When are we seeing it used defensively to evade damage? And when are we seeing it being used to put the hurt on the enemy team? Hopefully, you're going to see them being kept in pocket for those right moments, because it's always a really darn shame when you have those ultimates being expended just to flee the scene.
Oh yeah. And looking at how the Seismic Shockwaves are framing this dual lane, banning out two ADCs, it feels like their focus is on this aggressive duo that they have
Yep.
within the Apollo and Charon. And on the Kingslayer side, I was kind of waiting for it. I was wondering if they were going to do it, but the Hades, man, that's a counter matchup. You see Amaterasu, she wants to get those insta wave clear. She wants to be able to lay in and fight for free. You get the Hades, and he does literally what Ama does, but better. He just insta clears the wave,
You
walks up
shall
with the
not
pressure, and
pass!
Amaterasu can't
To my
really do
father's
anything but run
house.
away. It's going to be a great controlling pick to make sure the Kingslayer solo lane is going to be super in there and quite possibly working with a lead coming into, especially First Beacon and Gold Fury. On the other side, we're looking at more global pressure.
Darkness
Giannis is on
falls
the map
upon
now.
you!
That's scary, man, but I like it a lot. It's exactly what you said. It's more global pressure. It's more of Seismic Shockwaves trying to shut down Kingslayers before they can even get their mojo going. And once again, I think it comes down to very careful ultimate usage, and not even just careful in the sense of where you're placing it, but making sure you're not keeping it too long in this instance. You want to make sure that you're using those through space and time a bit more liberally. Yes, it's not the shortest cooldown, but if you're keeping it in pocket for so long that you could have just gotten another one, it's a bit of a waste of the character's purpose. So hopefully going to see that being used very well on Reyhum,
Oh,
and knowing Reyhum's level of play, not going to be surprised by whatsoever. Camazot's going to lock in the rest of their comp though, and Cupid to match on the Kingslayers.
they they pick Cupid, man.
They did it,
What
man.
what's going on?
They're the
I mean,
Kingslayers.
I mean, seismic shockwaves are all relying on mobility to get across the map. It's not a bad pick by any means. It's just not particularly common to see here. I'm I'm kind of liking it, man. The more I think about it, I'm thinking it's a crime to pick up Cupid in the situation where you see this kind of aggressive meta, especially in the dual lane. But it kind of slaps, dude. It keeps Giannis out of his portals. It keeps Charon from aggressing and Camazotz
Very
from
true.
leaping. It's a big ult forcer. And so, with the kind of comp that Kingslayers have, they really want to flex those big circles and big zoning ability. It's an interesting way to round out that comp. I do feel like Shockwaves are gonna have the momentum, at least with the depending on how they play it, of course, throughout those early portions of the game to try to make sure that Kingslayers never really get to the team fight footing that they want to get to. But if this reaches a point where Kingslayers are grouped as five and they're running down objectives, it feels like there's nothing that could stop them, man. That team fight is going to be scary.
Hopefully they've been doing their math homework because, like you said, Big circles on big circles on big circles. But will it get them? The big W. Only one way to find out. Let's get into game one here for the semifinal set. Hello everyone and welcome to the Smite Draft League Season 3 Divine Division. It's going to be a best of 3 semi-final set here between Seismic Shockwaves and the Kingslayers. I'm Deelo, joined once again by Akamaru7, also known as Ken. And Ken, you mentioned the fact that, yes, early game Seismic Shockwaves are going to start picking up some steam once they get those ultimates online. But before we get to level 5, we get some ways to go here. Where do we think the advantage lies in the lanes?
I think that the big focus for Seismic Shockwaves has got to be on that duo lane. Apollo and Charon are really, really, really aggressive. They love to be in there, and they like to get things off early. Kingslayers don't exactly have the most protective composition to fight onto it. Ganesha and Cupid have dashes to make sure that they're able to be safe, but Seismic Shockwaves should be running with a good amount of pressure in this early portion of the game. I think we're going to be looking at Ganondad and seeing where he decides to put his pressure and his focus. Shockwaves have generally a low CC comp before ultimates start coming up, and so I'm hoping he can flex his KamZot's damage and really make sure that he's able to get in there and pick off some spots where he can see a little advantage. Nice port.
That's a very fair point. Since the character's inception, KamZot's has always been a very technically skilled god, whereas you're not really focused on setting up easy CC chains. You got to just kind of land those skill shots. And Ganondad, not to be outshone here by Wyvern. Wyvern, of course, fantastic premier player of this division, but Ganondad's been a sleeper pick. I've been saying this for a bit. As far as jungles go in the division, I think a very fantastic performance across the season from this player. But as far as KamZot's versus the Thor itself, once those levels come online, it is going to be difficult to match the rotation ability of that god. So on the side of Ganondad, the question is going to be whether or not you decide to ammo to that dual lane, or maybe try to help out your Ama, who, as you said at the desk, is going to be struggling a bit against this Hades.
Right. It's always tough to deal with a Hades, especially as a jungle, just because that character has so much of an ability to just run you down. And even in the 2v1, if you get caught in that ultimate, you just kind of get destroyed. And so Hades, I mean, I feel like Ganondad needs to farm up before he can really flex that much. But once he gets some stuff online, the Hades doesn't build protections for quite a bit here. And so once he can start running down the Hades, it might just be a little bit ugly if Nicodrin doesn't play that pick as reserved as he needs to.
Very fair point there, but speaking of lack of reservations here, ZakuZz is going to have to get some reservations there about contesting the Cupid, because this is going to be the pick that we are very much interested in. I mean, Ragemore, never been one to shy away from the off-meta picks here. Certainly going to be bringing that action. We mentioned how Ganesh, as far as the Guardian matchups here, was maybe going to get the edge a little bit, but once these Guardians decide to take their leave of the lane, what does that 1v1 matchup look like between the Apollo and Cupid? Because there's not going to be a team fight for quite some time.
I feel, when I look at an Apollo, I think of a character that just wants to 1v1 the other opponent. Cupid doesn't really let you do that. A solo kill from solo lane, as we're talking about it, I mean, maybe we don't even have to talk about it.
Over. Might be in some trouble there, Ganondad, about to get fathered by Wyvern. One more hit will do it, but the team captain will say, I need some accolades myself. DLC manages to snag a second kill here for the Kingslayers. Now scoreboard reads 2-0. Not what you want to be seeing from the team that should be doing well in the early game.
Yeah, that Hades is scary, man, and that's the guy you don't want the kill going on to. DLC putting a good rotation onto the enemy blue buff and able to secure that one out for himself, and that's a rough sign for the Seismic Shockwaves. You're losing characters that you really don't want to be getting behind, and as the gold spikes, you're seeing 1,000 for the Kingslayers. It's not it's a really rough first blood to lose out on, but again, it's one buff invade that's going out, and SwagMaster still getting the buff itself for him. And so if you're looking at this, you're trying to see what small victories you can get across the map, because it's a first blood, but you can pick yourself back up. The levels aren't necessarily reflecting it just yet, outside of maybe the 1v1 that the Amaterasu has with the Hades. That was always a losing matchup to begin with.
Very true. At that point, we already kind of had resigned ourselves to this being the inevitability. But what's also good is the fact that those kills fell on that solo lane side. And as you've mentioned, and as we're going to continue to mention, focus is going to be on this duo lane here. It's aggressive. It's going to be a lot of pressure on this Apollo. So, hey, KamZz's ambling on over there. I agree with that. Maybe get some pressure down, but dash has been expended already by Ganesh. Could be your chance to amble on in. Fields of Love and the Summon Sticks do decent damage. Bad out of hell, gonna send him straight to that destination. ZakuZz picks up the kill on a JunglePhobic.
Yeah, Shockwaves, although having a little bit of a low CC comp, I mean, you got that wave. It knocks out literally any opportunity the enemy team has to really counter it. And I'm sorry, Wyvern took that. He took the shield buff with his hammer, and what a sneaky little guy.
I respect it. I mean, he's a spoiler, dude, but that's good. You want to see that, and he's gonna put some more damage. Really
Ganondad.
rough up Ganondad's day. He knows the ultimate's down. It's gonna be an Anvil of Dawn right on your head top. Those bats won't heal you soon enough. Wyvern picks up the second kill there on his head top. Ganondad goes down. Another one might be brought here for the Kingslayers. Cupid putting on the numbers. Got a bit overzealous there, ZakuZz. One kill is not enough to dominate the baby quite yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you use your KamZz's ult, you know you're under danger. That character has a leap, and that's about it. Agni can follow you wherever you go, and Thor is just gonna be able to get you wherever you are. Ganondad just not able to get far enough away, challenging a little bit of neutral farm that maybe he didn't need to be up for necessarily. So he's gonna drop, and Zach gonna be taken down the other side of the map. It's a scary pace that the Kingslayers are setting. I'm not convinced it's a winning pace just yet, but it is very, very good for them. I think if you're playing this kind of composition, you really, really love to be in this game state. You're ahead, you can just flow it out, you can let it ride, and hey, they got the pressure to just keep on going wherever they want. Seismic Shockwaves have to play the defensive game of making sure that they're staying safe, because otherwise Kingslayers are just going to run them down across the map. They're already getting to the point where they can flex a lot of their more powerful tools. Ultimates are getting into use, and objectives are going to be looked at in the next 4 or 5 minutes or so. There's a lot of burn on both these sides, and your ability to play around those objectives is going to be a side that I do favor the Kingslayers on generally.
For sure. It's going to be a bit rough. You have 3 bombs in your pocket. You have the Fields of Love. All great manners to confirm. And now look at this, man. Apollo under pressure from the baby himself. Not a sight you quite see every day, but feeling emboldened. Ragemore's got the heals, and he's got the basics on deck. ZakuZz, you can't pick those up. Maybe you didn't quite know. A rotation coming in here from Gymkhana could be some trouble, but having the awareness there, Ragemore going to be just fine in this instance. You mentioned the fact that objectives might be in the crystal ball for Kingslayers. Do we as a Seismic Shockwaves decide to maybe take a step back? Take a step into the sky, why don't you? And he's going to follow. KamZz's going to be trying to escape the wave that's also sent out by his friend Gymkhana, try to get some extra damage on there. And you have a decent amount on JunglePhobic. Could be some trouble, though, or the members caught in the Field of Love. Dragonlordcat going to take down Ganondad. A Heart Bomb right to Gymkhana is going to do the same. Another 2 fall. Seismic Shockwaves, what can they do to just get a bit of momentum back?
There is just so much pressure from the Kingslayers to just run you down wherever you are. Seismic Shockwaves, I think the game plan, if you're looking at it from this situation, is really just to confirm the farm that you can. Kingslayers are going to be ahead at this point. They have a huge amount of kills on their belt. They've got a lot of pressure in the big fights themselves. But what you have on the Shockwaves is you have a mobile Apollo, and you still have a KamZz's that's on level with the Thor. Despite being 3 deaths down, he's not feeling the XP deficit just yet. And this Apollo with Aussie is going to still be able to fight generally well throughout this early game. I mean, look, he got hard bombed in the middle of the fight, and his Aussie passive was down. So that's gonna happen.
Okay, we'll wipe that one from the ledger there, but that's rough, dude.
Yeah,
it's
a non-fight. It's a non-fight, you know?
We won't count it, but now Ragemore, look at this man. He's jumping for joy, and I don't blame him. He's making Cupid look like the dominant ADC of this meta. And that's a scary, scary thing. 9 minutes in now. Gold lead's been extended to about 3K, and it's a 5 kill deficit as well. You mentioned trying to grab what farm you can. One of the, of course, big farm items that we're going to be seeing here coming up. Uh-oh. Might be seeing a big gank coming up here. Wyvern rotating in, not quite aware of it. SwagMaster, I don't know if this is a position you want to be in. Wall gonna miss though, gonna grant enough space for the dash, but is there enough space in that health bar to stay alive? Not gonna be much space if he lands on your head. Wyvern grants another kill there on a SwagMaster with some excellent rotations. The bombs might be doing enough here to Reyhum, but the one miss will actually cost you that kill. The mid laner manages to get away with a sliver.
It feels like the Kingslayers just know where their kills are going to be. Everywhere Wyvern goes, he gets something out of it. And whether it be just like a small victory on farm, or hey, he's going to take your whole soul laner, why not, man? This guy has such good game sense on where he needs to go, and it feels like Kingslayers just have the communication down where they see an opportunity and they're going to go for it. They're not scared of anything. With the 3K lead mounting for themselves, that's working for them.
Yeah, at this point, it just feels like Seismic Shockwaves are... They're in the passenger seat. They have to respond to Kingslayers. They no longer can try to go on the aggressive. And with that in mind, Beacon's on the horizon here. Do you decide to let this one go when you're already playing from behind, or do you try to make some sort of stand to reverse that flow that Kingslayers have going for them?
I think the general things a lot of teams go for is to send a lot to the Beacon, but maybe send a lot to the Gold Furies. The Seismic Shockwaves answer. Cupid is walking up, but it's a bold call that they're going for.
He's got the Field of Love. You could be in trouble. They do manage to secure alongside the excellent summon sticks that managed to not only get the secure down, but also turned Rage more away, so that secure could not be confirmed for the Kingslayers. Hey, credit to them, a risky play, but it paid off. But you might also be paying in your mid laner's life. Taking to the sky is going to retreat back to that tier 2, but they do have some insurance with JunglePhobic around the corner to try to provide a bit of an escort. But the target switch, you weren't safe either, Jim. I don't know what you were thinking hanging around in that jungle. Wyvern going to pick up that kill for the killing spree. Beacon going to open up soon, but all they care about is opening up the ribcage of the captain. Gymkhana will indeed go down, make the kill board 8 for the Kingslayers.
Well, if you weren't going to the Beacon now, I guess you're really not going at this point.
Yep.
Wyvern pressed his kit once, and Reyhum was down to 10% HP. Thor just does the damage. I mean, he's walking up between his tier 2. He don't care. And I mean, when you're playing as a Thor with this much pressure, that's what you want to do, man. You want to get that lead, you want to hold on to it, and you want to make sure the carries in the opposing lanes are just not able to do anything. Thor really loves to be that guy who seeks you out and destroys you at all points of the game, and Wyvern's playing it perfectly, man. He's walking up by the enemy back camps with no care in the world.
He can do it with impunity. It's like you said, wherever he goes, death follows. And right now that is taking the form of Jim, who is quite literally the personification of death, but has not really been making it happen. In fact, has taken 2 spills to the fountain himself. As far as just their it factor right now, because we mentioned it being the Apollo, do we still feel like around 13 minutes in that is the case? Are all our hopes on ZakuZz, or do we have a different hero lying in the wings that Seismic Shockwaves needs to maybe play around a bit more to get back into this game?
In terms of if you gotta get a hero ahead, you probably want the Giannis to get there. I think that the Kingslayers have a really great comp to keep you under control, but there's not really much you can do about a slippery Giannis if you're able to really get in there. Kingslayers have the Cupid to try to do what they can, but Reyhum, I'd say the game is going to be a lot on whether his damage is coming out, because that's the burst that you really want out of a team when you're behind.
Right on, they're trying to burst down Nico, and going to go down with a fight, but not too much quite there. A lot of ultimates expended, though, and Wyvern knows they're going to take to the sky, and anticipating that, Reyhum going to flee the scene with the quickness. Anvil of Dawn is down, and that's going to be a huge boon to them, because Wyvern's sticking around a little bit too long for the fight. So they're going to try to go in. Ganondad with the initiation. Solid damage onto him, but they can't really find the kill quite yet. This Thor is elusive. Going to be able to teleport right back to safety here. And now, tables have been turned a little bit. Ganondad looking to be a bit low on life. Going to be able to devour and leap on out. Seems that this is a bit of a nothing burger here, but certainly was some fear there on both junglers for their lives. They will manage to maintain them. Nico's the only one that will fall.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's not that much you can do to catch up with a Thor, man. This guy's got so much mobility, and if you're not careful, you saw what happened to Ganondad on the back end. Agni's gonna rip him apart. Ragemore might be getting ripped apart himself, though.
Good rotation here. You got the hearts, but is it enough? He's actually managing to make him flee. That one heart might just be what he needed, but I don't know if you can win a 1v3, my friend.
Hey.
Ragemore, unfortunately, will fall at the hands of ZakuZz, but man, it took a lot for one baby. 3 adults. That's rough, man. Handicap match, and now it's going to be a big handicap match here against that Pyro. Kingslayers will manage to take it down, not for a lack of effort from SwagMaster as well to get something in there. Going to put on a dazzling offensive, but not too much razzle to that dazzle. Going to be having to flee the scene stage right. Ganondad's present now for this fight, but I don't know if you want any part of it. Might just watch your soul laner go down. Wyvern says, I'm forcing you to be a participant. You're voluntold, my friend. Take to the skies real quick before you are sent back to the fountain forcibly. Very low health are both junglers once again. Gonna send in a little bit of a wave just so they can ride it. They seem to have fun there. Kingslayers enjoy the wave pool, but once again, a bit of a nothing burger here. You had one kill on the dual lane side. On to Ragemore, extended up just a bit too far for their own good, but overall, Kingslayers get a pyro for it. Not the worst of trades.
Yeah, if you're Seismic Shockwaves, that's a victory in your book. You took down the Cupid, and you're flexing what makes you strong. There's only so much that a Cupid with pressure can really do, especially when you have the cross-map presence that the Apollo has. If you back and you just walk on back with full HP, if the Cupid's poked out, what's he gonna do, man? You just have the health advantage and everything. Doesn't matter if you're 2 levels up or what. Ragemore clearly has the better fight due to his lead. But
yeah,
if he's up on that tier 2 and he's not guaranteed that there's not gonna be a fight back onto him, then I'm sorry, that Cupid can't really do that much. He's gonna die. Seismic Shockwaves do have recognized that, and they did do well on making sure that they can keep that Cupid under control. But that's just one death, man. You gotta keep doing that. You gotta keep challenging these things. And when Kingslayers are this big, SwagMaster might be going down again. Or maybe it's Ganondad. Hey.
He's never safe, man. The target switching off Wyvern. He wants everyone to feel the pain. Oh, fantastic evasion of the tectonic rip with the blink. That will actually guarantee the lives of both. Wyvern maybe got a bit too big for his britches this time. The Fury will actually go down as well. And Wyvern still manages to pick something up off the back end. Does not matter. That's going to be another kill there in the bucket for Kingslayers here. Seismic Shockwaves trying to put up a bit of a resistance here. I'm not even sure, honestly, who got that Fury there. Ken, you have eyes on that, John?
Seeing as that the Kingslayers are now 6k up, what was previously a 4k lead, I'm assuming it's them. Seismic Shockwaves were able to step up after the fact and being able to walk up a little bit, force a couple ultimates, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really that much they were able to do, and Wyvern just gets the kill on the other side. It's unfortunate. Wyvern is just so huge. He's picking up kills left and right, and Shockwaves just kind of have to be left with the scraps. It feels like everywhere Wyvern goes, he's picking something up, and so Shockwaves really have to look towards where Wyvern isn't. Because if this guy's on the map, he's going to be slapping you down, and he's the power player on Kingslayer's side. He's going to be the one to watch out for. And it looks like Ragemore, with the Blink Cupid, is going to be just fine. I mean, you're putting pressure on the Cupid. You're checking him out. You're making sure that he's not playing for free. That's what you got to do, man. And Zach has been slowly regaining his position. I think him and Cupid are even levels about now, or at least offset by a little bit. And so at least in that one lane, you're feeling okay. Not amazing, but you're feeling okay about the ADCs.
I think there's just one thing that we're not feeling okay with, and we can call back to the desk when we talked about there's a theme here on both sides of global presence, and I really think, and I'd imagine you would agree, only one team's really been able to execute on that as you would want. Wyvern is always taking the lead foot with these Anvils of Dawn and bringing the hurt to whoever he so pleases. You really can't predict based on your health bar who he's going to land on, because he can just 100 to 0 you with impunity. Whereas on the reverse end, these through space and times, these chariots, haven't really gotten to see them bring much unexpected presence. It's oftentimes more so used as an escape option. So the question becomes, for Seismic Shockwaves, do you continue to let Kingslayers have the lead foot for these engagements, or do you decide to use some of your own tools to try to maybe swing the rhythm to your favor, dance to your own tune?
I think at the pace that Kingslayers are setting, you can't really fight them on the ground that they want to play on. They're going to want to pick you out, and they're going to want to take you and squeeze your farm before you can really do anything about it. You really have to take fights at advantages where you see them, get picks where you find them, and maybe get a little cheeky on Ragemore over here.
Some decent damage put down there. 3 ultimates, though, expended, but you do, in fact, 4 now with through space and time, and a big dodge of the Anvil of Dawn, but some decent damage being put here on a Gymkhana will indeed fall. Apollo's arrived on the scene, though. Could provide some decent damage, but you gotta learn some basics, my friend, before Swagmaster falls. It's a double there for Wyvern, who now's got a port right on out before he, too, meets the grayscale. It's going to be Ganondad trying to wrap around the back to take down his opposition. Not gonna succeed, though. Dragonlordcat stuffs that one out for the killing spree on the Agni, and now Reyhum's gonna have to flee stage left. It's overall a fight won by the Kingslayers, but not by the widest of margins. You have DLC and Wyvern dropping very low during that engagement, but at the end of the day, who cares if you have the kills?
Yeah, Ragemore, unfortunately, just finding himself a little caught out in the open. Cupid doesn't really have the ability to get away like a couple other ADCs might be able to, and so he's getting caught out, forcing the Fields of Love, and just trying to survive as long as he can. But once the Dharmic Pillars and the Anvil of Dawn come on down, it was a clear momentum shift for the Kingslayers. Their ability to get together, lock down the enemy team, and just let DLC rain down for free, it's huge for them. And they might be able to get this Pyromancer for free just off of that. It feels like when they get in there, they're able to make what they want work, and they're so far ahead that it makes it look just clean. Swagmaster going to go down without that much trouble, and it's a 9k lead for the Kingslayers. It's scary territory. You're in the point where you can't really challenge objectives that much. You have to take the picks where you can, and they were able to get it on Ragemore earlier, so Seismic Shockwaves are not incapable of obtaining small victories here and there, but I think you're at the point where you have to run away from Kingslayer's core fight. You can't challenge them on what they want to do. You have to get yourself to level 20. You can only get so high in levels. You can only get so far in your build. And so at the pace that Kingslayers are setting, you cannot just fight them 5-on-5.
ZakuZz has learned that lesson indeed, but the Blink Cupid, the Heart Bomb is gonna give you a little present if you try to drive by. It's not gonna work, my friend. Will crash upon entering the atmosphere. There goes ZakuZz. The damage was just too much. You can't challenge those Furies. Kingslayers have objective and kill domination in this game, and it's just unfortunate. Yes, we've seen some picks, like you said, on the Ragemore, but it always feels like when they get those picks off, they're expending 3, if not 4, if not 5 ultimates. It's just too much resource that you're using when you need it for the grander fight, especially when your team is meant for those 5v5s. Kingslayers just are able to get it more done with less. But Seismic Shockwaves, to their credit, trying to get a bit done here on this beacon, but Kingslayers with just one elephant going to drive them away in spades.
Yeah, smart on their side. They might have seen the Thor on the other side of the map, but at the same time, I mean, are you really going to take that risk? If you see one of them on the map,
Absolutely.
chances are the rest of them are going to be there. That's been the trend throughout most of this game. And so just give it up. It's not going to be an insane victory compared to what else has been happening on the map. And at the end of the day, the more seconds that the Kingslayers are using to get small objectives, the faster you can get your levels up. 19 on Giannis, 19 on Apollo now as well. You're getting up there in the levels, and there's only so far the Kingslayers can spike their lead. This is the strongest that they're going to be in comparison to the Shockwaves.
But Kingslayers looking to get a bit stronger now here with this FG on the line. You have 3 members of Seismic Shockwaves rotating around, but they're not cohesive. They're not together, and they can take advantage of that. A big through space and time, but it's only going to help their damage. You have the most damaging ability in the game, though. Who's going to grab it? It indeed will be the Kingslayers, and now it's just easy pickings. Apollo joins the fight just to die instantly. Unfortunately, there goes ZakuZz. Ragemore picking that one up. Seismic Shockwaves need to flee the scene in droves. Only a little puddle left where their Apollo was. Ganon, now's not the time to farm, my greedy friend. I understand you want to get that KamaZot's passive off, but not at the expense of your own life. It's only going to be one member down, luckily, and not if Wyvern has anything to say about it. One member down for the Shockwaves, but Titan will shortly follow, and with FG wrapped around all 5 members of the Kingslayers, I don't like the Shockwaves' chances here there, Ken.
Yeah, Kingslayers made me sweat a little bit. Once the Giannis all started coming out and the wave started running forward, I was thinking in the back of my mind, this might be a chance for a steal.
But
I mean, they got the Fire Giant. They're picking up the pressure.
Not if this Heart Bomb's got anything to say about it. Cupid is crazy. Killing spree there for Ragemore. Ganondad once again just has to hippie hop their way on out. Can't do too much damage as the KamaZots if you don't have that lead or that lockdown. Reyhum brought down there by Nico. Jim might have to paddle on away. Summons the sticks. Good fear. There's some decent damage on to JunglePhobic, but mostly done by the Phoenix, and the Titan having a death march down this right side could be trouble. Gymkhana's path locked off by Wyvern, blocked off, and back to the fountain. A double kill there onto ZakuZz, spawns in to die. It's only Ganondad here to watch as the Titan begins its engagement. Rock'em Sock'em robots, they have their interest here on the bat. They want to take it down. Leave the Halloween mascot alone. Don't you know it's October? They're not patrons of the spooky season. They'll order fountain. They're going to take down JunglePhobic. Won't matter though. Game 1 in the end. SwagMaster gets a consolation prize kill on a Ragemore, but in the end, Cupid's done his job. Game 1 goes to the Kingslayers. Cupid OP, baby. Cupid OP. Ken, man, a very dominant game there by the Kingslayers. We had some moments, some sparks of life there from the Shockwaves, but in the end, they couldn't quite come up with the formula. What happened this game?
Kingslayers, they just got the lead and they started running away with it, man. There's not that much you can do when you have a crazy teamfight team that also gets the pressure in the early game to really flex wherever they want across the map. And so it felt like Shockwaves had a good idea with the way they drafted their composition. It's just that there wasn't enough tools to really pull themselves back and really get in there the way they really wanted to. Because if you think about this composition, it's really an all-in comp, and you really want to be running it down before Kingslayers can really full bear their composition. But unfortunately, it just seemed like during those early portions of the game, Wyvern was walking across the map doing whatever he wanted. And once the numbers start hitting and the entirety of the Kingslayers are really, really ahead, it's just so hard to pull yourself back. They had a couple sparks of maybe pulling something back on that Fire Giant fight and being able to pick out that Cupid, but at the end of the day, Seismic Shockwaves just didn't have the tools to bring themselves back in like they wanted to. I think if you're looking into this for a game 2, I mean, there's an idea. I think you just need to get more aggressive. You need to be in there more, and you need to be really countering out how Wyvern wants to play. Because if this guy's not on his footing, it doesn't look too bad for you. But when you get a game where a Thor goes 9-0, I don't know, man. What are you gonna do about him? He's just different.
He is just different, man. You saw that shield buff steal. He's crazy. But I definitely agree that they weren't quite able to play to the aggressive nature that their comp really wanted to. You don't want to see a KamaZot's off that back foot. But speaking of the game 2 you mentioned, we'll be getting to in just a moment after this break here. Don't go anywhere. Hello everyone, welcome on back here to the Smite Draft League semifinals. Divine division here between Seismic Shockwaves and the Kingslayers. I'm Deelo, once again joined here by the Ken that Ryan Gosling really wishes he could play, Akamaru7.
True.
And yeah, and man, getting into this game too here, you mentioned aggression. That's what we want to see here, change up from the Shockwaves. How do we maybe need to see that reflected in the picks this time around?
I think controlling the way the Kingslayers pace their gameplay, because Kingslayers have a lot of counter initiation in the way that they played their game one. I think that Shockwaves are really going to be looking towards cutting off those defensive gods and really getting some early game dominance. Maybe see a Ratatoskr out here or something like that. Shockwaves, I think in the first game they were kind of bowing to the way the Kingslayers wanted to play.
Yeah.
Kingslayers really want to be getting their leads and farming all across the map and keeping your team off your footing. What I think Shockwaves need to do is they need to find where they're strong. They are a really, really good core to keep themselves keep themselves in the game and really pull out those victories no matter what. And so I want to see Shockwaves really rally and hopefully find something that's going to work for the way that they want to play, rather than letting the Kingslayers kind of just run their Thor and go crazy.
Yeah, and hopefully, in my opinion, I think we should be seeing that in these initial bans. That was their first pick. Kingslayers clearly have confidence and for good reason, but they're opting for the Ganesh ban, saying that's maybe more of a facilitator of their problems than the more flashy Thor. Do you tend to agree with the Seismic Shockwaves game plan in that instance?
Yeah, I think if I'm going to do my best Phoenix impression and talk about the PEMDAS, every time you saw an Anvil Dawn, you always saw the Dharmic Pillars just pop on up, keep the
Mm-hmm.
entirety of the Seismic Shockwaves in one place, and then boom goes the hammer, man. You can't do anything, because if you walk out, you get slapped down by the Dharmic Pillars and slowed, and if you stay in there, you're getting destroyed by Thor. And so I think a huge part of the Kingslayers team fight was that Dharmic Pillars, and keeping that out of the hands of the Kingslayers is a really good move. But hey, they banned Susano last game, and Kingslayers just pick it up for themselves. So
It just doesn't seem like you can win, you know? Like when you have a player this versatile, like as Wyvern is, he just says, "Okay, you're not going to ban the one god you took off the ledger for me. Well, I'll just pick him up." It makes it feel like a loss no matter what. And with Ares here, Chain Gang coming up here, it's gonna be rough. Seismic Shockwaves need to really make sure their positioning's on point if they want any escape from these fights.
yeah, Shockwaves are going to be looking towards an even more aggressive Kingslayers than the previous game.
How's that even
Susano and
possible?
Ares are just going to run straight forward at you, and them picking the Guan is giving them a little bit of security, at least in that solo lane. I'm liking it, and I think that's going to be the trend for how they want to play this one out. You're not going to win against the Kingslayers with that composition if you're just running straight forward the whole time. I think the way you want to look at it is just to make sure that your core is going to be safe. And Hell is a great way to make sure those Ares ults are getting zero value.
I like this a lot. I like Reyhum on this specifically. Reyhum's
Oh yeah.
a really good player piloting this Hell. I've seen it in action before when Hell was at her heyday. I mean, a lot of players, granted, were picking her up, but I think Reyhum was one of the many that really executed it very well. So not only like it as a counter pick to Kingslayer's CC heavy comp right now, but I also just like it for Reyhum's ability to execute. But that's rough. That's rough. That doesn't feel good because instantly you've got a horse in a cage, you got a merry-go-round here, you've got a Rom who's gonna try to roll his way out, can't do that, and you've got a Hell who can't heal. I'm not liking this one, man.
Yeah, that's scary. Shockwaves, I think they got the kind of picks that allows them to play they want to play. Reyhum is going to be your power player throughout this early portion of the game, and there's not really that much that Susano can really do. If you pull her in and she just explodes all over you, it's going to be crazy. Odin, on the other hand, I mean, it's it's just so good here, man. Guan can
Yeah.
only get so far in his horse. Susano's gonna follow you to the ends of the earth, even if you somehow manage to get out of there. And so Kingslayers are running an insane control composition. You don't know what their carries are, and so Shockwave's smart taking out the Thoth and the Artemis, making sure that at least some big damage compositions aren't coming out from those. And Artemis being another beats burner is going to be real dangerous. But Kingslayer's saying that they don't really care. They're going to pick the pick that worked for them last game, and that's going to be the Agni. huge amounts of overwall pressure. You can't get to him through Odin Cage, and so if you're stuck in there, the Agni's going to be firing on you for free. It's
so rough.
scary. It is
It's
so
so rough.
scary.
It's circles within circles once again, and we saw how well that worked for Kingslayers last time. And just throw Cupid on top of it. Why not? Like, I genuinely think that Cupid would actually be very welcome in this upcoming fight. Just throw down a Fields of Love in the Odin Cage. It's a wrap. But Seismic Shockwaves, to their credit, trying to find some means to counter this out. They have a Emoja. They got a Ravana potentially on deck for their jungle. That's going to be interesting to see here. What are your thoughts on those final 2 picks here for the Shockwaves?
I think if there is a pick that's going to allow you to control this Kingslayers draft, it is going to be the Emoja. There isn't that much of an ability for the Susano or the Ares to get out of that River's Rebuke, and it allows you for whatever the Kingslayers play in ADC, unless it's Famana, to really to not be able to challenge what the Shockwaves want to do. Robin is a good jungle matchup into Susano, and so he's going to be able to play a little more freely than Ganondad was on the Camazotz. Okay, they picked Honor. They didn't pick Famana.
He's interesting. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Ragemore is different, but he ain't that different. All right, I would have respected the hell out of it.
It would have been a good pick. I'm not even gonna lie. It would have been a really good pick.
Yeah, I mean, dude, just like Playpen set the baby on in his crib. He doesn't care. He's gonna throw a little stomping tantrum, just absolutely mollywop anyone caught inside the spears. It could be brilliant, but hey, another day. Kingslayers say we'll save that for finals. You guys aren't even worthy of that. But Honor, what does that bring?
Honor's going to bring a lot of security in this consistent damage and really good 1v1. Rom is famous for being able to pressure down the dual lane, but if you're not able to 1v1 that Honor, who's going to thrive in keeping you locked down and really punishing a low mobility pick like a Rom, so Honor is going to be able to give the dual lane of the Kingslayers, which already has an Ares, just an incredible early game. That's going to be really, really scary if you are the Seismic Shockwaves, which isn't lacking in fight back, but still, it's going to be rough. You just don't want to die to that lane ever.
That's the worry. You said fight back, and I just feel like that's kind of what their comp has entirely. It's all reactive. Once again, it's about the Hell Cleanse in reaction to Kingslayer setting the pace, but hopefully they'll prove me wrong and they're willing to dance to their own tempo this time. But only one way, Ken, to find out. Let's get right into Game 2 of the semifinals, Divine Division. Hello everyone, welcome on back to the Smite Draft League semifinals of the Divine Division. Gonna be Game 2 here. Kingslayers looking at this victory. They want to move on to finals for them in their eyes as the undefeated champions of this division so far. It's an inevitability. Seismic Shockwaves trying to flip the script a little bit. Maybe just put a bit of a speed bump in their career. Say, hold on a second, you guys haven't faced this hell. And it's gonna be a good tool to their credit, but as far as win cons go, I don't know, Ken. I'm a bit nervous here. What do we think as far as the early game is going to be their MO? Which lane do we need to focus most attention to?
I think it is the Hell, man. Reyhum, not only is it a really good god for him, but I think that the Hell just isn't going to be threatened for a very long time against the Kingslayers. I think that this god gets pressure and she holds on to it very, very well. If Ganondad's able to help his mid laner out and really make sure that Susano isn't able to do anything against that Hell, maybe get himself a little first blood or not, Dragonlordcat gonna be walking on back in very, very little health. Reyhum is gonna be wanting to do more of that. That mid lane's gonna be a kill lane for the Shockwaves for sure.
I like that idea, but the issue is, and it always comes when the mid lane is your kill lane. It's a lane that's very easy to read moves from. You have oftentimes the most wards scattered around there. You got two sides there. You can usually see things coming before a gank happens. It's a bit more obvious since you'll see people rotating in and out. And because of that, it's going to be a bit tougher to get the jump onto not only just DLC in general, but playing the Agni, has the dash, able to escape out easily, beads still in pocket. So I like the win con, like I said, but just as a win con, Hell is not going to be always the most advantageous. But Ganondad, to his credit, trying to put a bit more pressure in this dual lane. Not going to quite find it just yet. And a JunglePhobic can do that right there. Chain up ZakuZz, put the pressure down, has to expend the beads, but still underneath the flames. It's gonna be a rough showing here for the Shockwaves.
That pillar was 2 inches away from killing Zach immediately, man.
Yep.
When it came up, I thought it had body blocked him in, and I was sweating, man. That the ability for Ares and Anhur to just kind of run at you is going to be immense from the Kingslayers, and that lane should just be a free win unless Ganondad can just ultra destroy on the other side. It is a very rough spot to be in when your dual lane is that high, is that low pressure against something like that. But Shockwaves, I mean, look, man, I'm said it once more. I'll say it once more. Hell is still really, really good. I want to see Reyhum get in like 3 kills during this early game because that's what they want.
We're seeing buff pressure here on both sides. You do get the nice steal there for SwagMaster, and that's really good. SwagMaster was having a rough go of it as the Ama last game against the Hades. Hopefully this time a bit more of a favorable matchup here, at least against the Odin, despite it not still being ideal. But Kingslayer is going to counter there at the green buff steal. You know how I feel about my green buffs, Ken, so that's got to feel bad if you are on the side of the Seismic Shockwaves. It's just not good when Kingslayers already feel like they can move through your jungle with impunity, especially when you really heavily prioritize this ROM, showing they have a lot of confidence in it. They have a lot riding on it, and if that lane, that side of the map is already faltering, not the best indication.
Yeah, it's not the most comfortable place to be. I will say the ROM does scale very, very well. So if you're able to get that pick at least at least through these early portions of the game, like Ares' ability to pressure your lane is gonna fall off once your ADC can kill him. And so, at least for this portion, you're kind of sitting and waiting and letting your ROM farm. But at a certain point, there's the timer ticking. ROM's going to be really strong if you let him be. And so I think there's a lot of pressure on Wyvern to give his ADC some help, or for Ragemore to just get in there, man.
It looks like they're trying to get it in onto Ragemore instead. They're reversing it. Mystic Rush going to put the damage on ZakuZz, steals it away. Come on, give your jungler some love. Might be some kills here falling in the mid lane as well. Mid-on-mid violence. Reyhum's in trouble, though. The cleanse won't cleanse death. Wyvern takes that kill as well. Overall, First Blood does go to the Seismic Shockwaves, but their ace in the hole falls to the jungle of Kingslayers.
Yeah, I mean, you got the First Blood bonus, so it is a win for the Shockwaves. You're able to get that on her taken out, and Zach's going to be sitting with a little bit more security going into these next couple minutes. It's what you want when you're Shockwaves. You want your ROM to be able to get ahead, and you want him to be able to carry that pressure, because on her from behind is not a fun spot to be.
Very true.
ROM is definitely your late game prowess when you're the Shockwaves. You want that god to carry you once you get to that post 20-minute side. Reyhum on the other side may not be the winning factor for them.
Getting dropped once again by Wyvern with the quickness. What can you do, Yomojo? Look at that man hip-hop back, happy as a clam. SwagMaster can't say the same. Trapped within the cage, doesn't have the cavalry charge once the spears drop, but not much damage dropped onto the Guan Yu in that duration. Can now get the conviction heals off. Ganondad's arrived as well, but here comes the no escape. Now does have the ability to get out as Ganondad thanks to the up-down, but SwagMaster unfortunately going to fall there thanks to a nice rotation as well from DLC. You're already seeing the cohesion from the Kingslayers. They're already starting to rotate as a team, and that's something we just didn't quite get to see from Seismic Shockwaves that much, beyond the occasional overextension that was capitalized on when Ragemore moved down the left lane. If Kingslayers can keep up that pressure, it's going to be rough spelling here for the Seismic Shockwaves. What's their strategy to get some kills on the board?
If you're looking to get some kills on the board, you're probably looking towards the Odin or the Anhur. I don't have a whole lot of faith that you're going to be able to get that much on DLC, because DLC knows that he's going to get out-pressured.
Exactly.
And he knows that all he's got to do is wait. On the other side, Anhur's got a good matchup. He might be playing aggressive, and Odin doesn't get anything against a Guan Yu. And so if you're looking for kills across the map, you're probably looking towards the side lanes if you are Shockwaves. But at the same time, I mean, you saw a lot of the prowess that the Kingslayers have during that blue buff invade from SwagMaster.
Mhm.
Not just are they a team that wants to run you down, but if there's an enemy god that has pressure, yeah, they're going to rotate their support and their mid laner over there. They're going to make sure
Mhm.
that you're not going anywhere unpunished. DLC has proven that he is willing to go anywhere if it means that his team is going to be able to get an advantage out of it. And so his mid lane rotations are going to be crucial for their possible victory over here. And Reyhum going down on the other side by his own red buff, by the way, is just going to be spelling trouble, trouble, trouble for that matchup. If you have a Hell, you do not want that character to be ending up behind.
He just wants to farm, bro. But Ragemore might be getting farmed himself. Oh. Good snipes there. One more will do it. But the Duke Shoes, this Lion's tap dancing away. Saw some trouble in the mid there, but Reyhum was able to escape. And I want to point out what just happened there as far as the engagements. We saw rotations from the support trying to take down this on her. And you know what that did? It opened up. They had faith that Ragemore is going to be just fine, self-spaced with that impale, got the ROM off their back. That allowed the rotation and the numbers advantage in the mid lane to get some pressure and get a kill. Kingslayers have faith in their abilities as individuals and as a team. It seems like no matter if they're 1-man strong, 2-man strong, 3-man strong, they just feel themselves and they know their capabilities.
No
and
way.
Unfortunately, that capability might be for a support kill here.
No
Onto
way.
the jungle, the chains in flames. Going to be rough. Escaped with a sliver, but maybe overestimating your capabilities this time. JunglePhobic in some decent amount of damage, but thanks to the cage drop there from the Odin, gonna be able to get away. Just Kingslayers, man, they always manage to shore up their blind spots so perfectly, never punished.
Yeah, Ares, you're gonna be doing more damage, man. That character is mean. When Kingslayers get in there,
oh, they're getting in there right now, though.
God.
Big Typhoon there on a Reyhum. Has to flee the scene. Those Hell Heals won't be enough. No escape. Put on to 2. You can't cleanse them this time, my friend. They just got to go forward. Mystic Rush. It's not going to grant you the kill. Wyvern takes down Ganondad. Gymkhana finally sweeps up JunglePhobic. But it's not the trade you want. Jungle for support. Ares is fine to lay down his life for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking the support, but we're taking your jungler. It's you're taking away a priority point for the pressure that Kingslayers have been having. At the same time, I mean, as the dust settles, you're realizing that Wyvern is 4-0 on the Susano. Yep. And they're not slowing down anytime. Ragemore is still hungry for it, man. Oh my god.
Could be in trouble, though. Here's the rotation from 2. Watch it. Oh, no. He didn't quite see that Dragonlordcat was backing up. But gonna have to back up forcefully back to the fountain. ZakuZz. This is where Ragemore is, unfortunately, always kind of gets picked off. It's just those overextensions. You didn't have your leap. Your disperse was used. You didn't quite have any reason to be up that far at that point. But nonetheless, only losing 1 member so far. Will they lose the Fury on top of it? JunglePhobic arrives to the scene. It's 5 members rotating in. Don't quite know if you have the Sakiras and Ares. Shockwaves grab the Fury. Might grab an Ares kill alongside it. Only one around to really help out is DLC. Seems that the Shockwaves are not quite confident in their kill potential. They're going to drop this one and take the victory where it comes.
Surely the Ares dies there. That's just unfortunate, man. He walks on out, no problem. JunglePhobic tickles the Gold Fury, and no problem for him. And if, I mean, even if he wasn't safe, there's a whole team behind him ready to back him up. Good takes by the Seismic Shockwaves to get that Gold Fury. They realized where they had a lot of people where the Kingslayers weren't, and Agni just was on his red buff. There's not that much you can really do if you're Kingslayers. Just got to accept that minor loss and move on with your day. Shockwaves are bringing it back little by little, and we're seeing, man, where they're strong is they have a lot of damage when they decide to walk forward. Kingslayers, on the other hand, might just be wanting to lock you down.
Kingslayers, on the other hand, have a caged Guan Yu, and that's a dead Guan Yu. JunglePhobic gonna take a nice kill for himself, finally earning that one. Support getting some blood on his ledger. Ganondad might be up next. The up-down's already been expended. Mystic Rush gonna have to come next. The bomb will fall. The Storm Kata cuts him down. DLC grabs Ganondad. Gymkhana going further into enemy territory there with that Riptide. You're not quite having too much ohm there, my friend. Not quite having too much health either. The Typhoon scoops him up. And Gymkhana goes down for the rampage onto Wyvern. Ragemore once again caught with his pants down, might be going down to the fountain, but it manages to once again evade that last snipe. Juke Shoes, man, this guy's got his Nikes on, manages to escape with a sliver of health, and that's gonna just make sure that this fight goes firmly across the map in the hands of the Kingslayers.
Man, Ragemore might just have the script this game. I don't know what's going on, but he's getting away scot-free almost every single time.
Like, there's no way he should be playing with that much confidence like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, the Anher's safe, but I mean, you're outnumbered. The mid laner's there. You're running away with the sliver of your health, but at least Zach's going to be able to secure his tower, or at least some more damage. There you go. Out of a little bit more. At the end of the day, though, there's a beacon fight, and Kingslayers are looking mighty pretty on this.
You have 3 members here to try to do something, but out of Ohm, Gymkhana can't do quite too much. There's a big bomb stun, an even bigger Typhoon knocks up 3. Cavalry tries to retreat on back. It's the reactive play. Like we said, Reyhum can only do his best to shore the gaps in their health bars as more bombs fall. Kingslayers secure that. Cade grabs 2. You can't cleanse the walls, my friend. It doesn't work. Reyhum and Gymkhana fall with the walls of the spears. And that's going to be just another fight spell to their name. Can Kingslayers grab more? The Desert Fury not going to be able to quite catch ZakuZz as he dashes on his way to safety. Now 13 minutes in, 10-3 reads the scoreboard. They're just going to look to lengthen the gold lead they have here with this cheeky Pyro. And Seismic Shockwaves going to try to secure it with the snipes. Only resource they can really put on it. And the Kingslayers do not even care. A Pyro goes their way, but here's a good engage. Going to be one left behind. It's JunglePhobic. You get at least something to your name, but it's not enough in the face of this lead that the Kingslayers are building up. Now 13 minutes in, scoreboard reads 4-10. And it's going to be 2,000 to Kingslayers. To be fair, not quite as much as we saw at this point in the game last time, but it's still not good.
Yeah, it's a 4k XP deficit as well. That's really where you're hurting. It's not fun. It's not fun to see yourself in. But at the same time, you're getting consistent pressure over in dual lane. Your Hell is starting to get back up on the board, although still a level down. It's not the worst position to find yourself in, and honestly, if I'm Shockwaves, I'm not feeling that bad about it. And clearly they're not either. They're going to start the Fury up for themselves.
I do like this play. I mean, it worked out well for them in the prior one, but this time they're recognizing they don't quite have the jump. It's not quite as novel this time around. As far as just reflecting on how that fight went around the beacon, around the mid lane, we talked about how positioning is going to be so pivotal this game. You have a no escape. You have an Odin cage. You cannot step a toe out of line. Who do we think needs to be Seismic Shockwaves' answer to these fights? Who do we think needs to maybe take the initiative, be on the vanguard to make sure they can go in their favor?
I think we've proven that when Seismic Shockwaves are running forward with an advantage, they are going to just out-damage you and out-pressure you. When Kingslayers are walking forward, you're never going to escape from them. I mean, it's in the ability name, no escape. You're just going to be going. And Seismic Shockwaves, they have the ability to pick out what they can, but I mean, look at this, man. Ganondad with a pick, though.
Hey, DLC's down. Ganondad grabs that, but Ares on the offensive. Reyhum could be in trouble if the Inspire heals aren't inspiring enough. But hey, Wyvern's down as well. That is huge. Seismic Shockwaves in a rare win for their team. It was unfortunately a bit of mistargeting there from the Kingslayers. They didn't quite stick to the same objective there. Ares got a bit distracted, or maybe more so everyone else got a bit distracted, and only the Ares had their eyes on the prize, that being Reyhum. But now the eye is on this Fury, and Seismic Shockwaves do manage to take it. Might get some extra kills there as well. Nico investing a bit too much there. The lunge had been used. He can't escape. And speaking of, look, it's Ares. You can't escape either. ZakuZz grabs the double and the rampage. Shockwaves are back in this.
Yeah, it's not game one anymore, fellas. You're not 7k up at 16 minutes. You can't just walk in against 4 people. Come on now. Seismic Shockwaves realizing where they're able to get some victories, and Kingslayers just kind of walking into it. This is huge for them. They're back even. In fact, they're ahead at the moment. They're the ones with the presence on the map, and maybe they're able to return an honor for themselves as well.
Ragemore, no matter what lane he's in, dual lane or solo lane, is eternally pushed up too far for his own good. Ganondad gonna take that kill. Snipes on board just for some added panache. But who's back in the fight? Wyvern's not happy with that shutdown, but they don't even care. Ramses, get back to Fountain where you belong. Nice kill there for the Hell. This is going to further their lead here, but Ganondad could be, unfortunately, on the chopping block. Some unfortunate pathing there was responsible for that mainly. Had you decided to retreat back the lane with the main body of the team, you might have been safe, but nonetheless, should not put that big of a dent in what has been a great performance from the Shockwaves over the past few minutes. But now with the tier 1 under siege, could be some trouble there, SwagMaster. You really don't want to go down with your ship this time, my friend. The chains are already here. Here comes the cage as well. Force wouldn't save you even if you do have it, but gonna be a nice Phantom Shell, provided a bit too late, my friend. And here comes the no escape, brought back into the midst is Gymkhana. TLC grabs SwagMaster. Here comes some reinforcements, though. ZakuZz on the front lines takes down DLC. Now Nico has to flee as well. JunglePhobic is going to try to retreat back through the jungle. Good lunge there to grant yourself a bit of space. Don't quite have that vertical movement on the side of the Shockwaves, but they're still in heavy pursuit. A good blink going to grant yourself a bit more distance. Seismic Shockwaves is going to opt, instead of the human targets, to maybe go for this neutral farm here in this Pyromancer, but still lurking. Wyvern and JunglePhobic are on the scene. You got to be careful if you don't want to get caught out by this intensely performing player from the Kingslayers. Seems that, though, they're just going to opt to let this objective go. Pyromancer does go the Shockwaves' way.
Yeah, Kingslayers, for the first time, and I think for a while, might be having a play from the back foot. It feels like Shockwaves are just doing a better job of grouping up as 5. They realize that they have a really great fight when they have advantages, and they're taking victories across the map, man. Ragemore, he pressed that tower in. There's
Ragemore, like, he cares way too much about these towers, bro. Like, objective damage is cool. I love stat padding, don't get me wrong, but, like, chill out. You see now, you're from the charts. It's now even. It is now even. As far as gold, it's just dead even.
Yeah.
Still minorly in the favor of Kingslayers is that XP difference, but as we start to tick to that late game, no matter what those minor XP deficits are going to be, Rom's going to be doing more damage than an Honor. It's just going to be an inevitability. It's like you mentioned, that's just the classic scaling hyper carry. Reyhum's starting to do more damage as well. It's more so a question of tactics at this point than it is the waiting game. But the question is, do Seismic Shockwaves have a winning formula for when they have their foot on the gas pedal?
I think as they walk through the wall there, I think it's really about where they force themselves. They need to be able to control leads and be able to spike themselves up as much gold as possible. I'm not sure if letting the Fire Giant go with just your Soul Laner there is the path forward, but they are going to be able to challenge that Phoenix.
They're innovative. Don't even worry about it. You have rotations coming in here from Ganondad, too. It's down to less than a quarter. Ganondad blinks on in. Do they grab it for themselves? No, it's going to be the Kingslayers that take it. No, not quite, though. It's not on the board. It's actually going to be Seismic Shockwaves able to steal it away, but the lives of 2 have gone down in trade. DLC off the Kingslayers, too. This is going to be an interesting trade matter here. Seismic Shockwaves now with a left side buff they didn't even earn. Those 3 were just focused on the tier 2 tower. They're going to grab themselves an Oni Fury as well. Kingslayer's Gambit did not quite pay off, and now it's going to be further here with more objective domination. Ragemore doing what he does best, though, knocking down some towers. That guy sure loves taking down structures.
Ragemore is like the anti-KDA player. He doesn't care how many times he gets ganked, how many times he dies. He's just gonna get his team the gold and get on those towers, man.
I don't think he cares about the gold, bro. He just someone like checking on his origin story. What do those towers do to him, bro?
I'm sure we can ask about the lore at some point.
Oh, yeah, we'll get that interview down.
He's got some kind of inner vendetta. And look, he's on the left side. Maybe that left side tower is his enemy now.
It's next.
He cares about the only way. Go get it.
From the tier 2 and the right side is like, you're next. They're just shivering in their boots. I don't blame him, though. That man's been a menace. But unfortunately, not quite so much in the team fights. As far as their strategy goes on the Kingslayer side, where do we think things kind of started slipping away from them? Surely it must have been some manner of tactical change on either end. It could have been the Shockwaves as well. What do we think has been the turning point?
I think Kingslayers have been so far ahead that they kind of started taking 1v3s, thinking that the rest of their team's going to catch up. And if they're so far ahead, why not, you know? But at this point, you're not that far ahead. DLC is going to go down just like that, but hey.
You get a trade at the very least. Wyvern returns it right back on to Ganondad. It's going to be a jungle for mid, but Seismic Shockwave is going to still be able to grant themselves another tower to their name, but it's a Fire Giant off the board that Kingslayers are really breathing a big sigh of relief for a tier 1 tower, and Reyhum potentially getting this tier 2. In the left side, dude, you have a team. Like, chill out. This guy's insane. Tier 2 in the right side is going to go down. Reyhum doesn't care, man. Look at him in the show. He's so stoic. Just gonna launch some javelins, and now he can return back to the fight. His job's been done. He's gonna AFK. He doesn't even care at this point. Once the mid tier 2 goes down, he doesn't have any reason to stay in this game. SwagMaster might not be in this game for much longer. Got to be careful here, sticking around on those front lines. But that sustain is an immensely important factor. We didn't even get to really talk too much about that as the Pyromancer goes down for the Shockwaves. The longer these fights do go on, Shockwaves stand to gain a lot more, but Kingslayers at the same time have a very burst-heavy comp, so they recognize that. It's going to be a question of, in this war of attrition, do your fights last 5 seconds or 30 seconds?
I think that, at least with an Agni, your war of attrition is never going to be a clean one. Healing's great, but when you got a character that's going to pop down this much, I mean...
Oh god, they're popping off though. It's a big no escape. Had to invoke a lot of beads and a lot of ultimates there, and a big typhoon to match. Wyvern gonna win the battle of natural disasters. Tsunami doesn't mean anything to me. Reyhum gets one. He gets a second. There's gonna be some kills for Wyvern as well. All my homies eat. ZakuZz is the only one left standing. Had to watch it from a bird's eye view in horror as the rest of the team fell. Kingslayers say, I hope you enjoyed your limelight. We're taking back the spot. It's going to be the mid-tier 2 tower gone, and then I have to imagine Reyhum's done playing this game.
He's getting that tower, and that's about it. But maybe they'll take a chance on this Phoenix. You know, he's got his teammates. He's got to appease them a little bit, too.
All right, you're right. You got to piece them up a little bit as well. Make sure that you can get your team the rest of the way. But doesn't quite seem they have the tools for an end call. ZakuZz stepping up, but going to be smacked in the face with a pillar. Forces both relics off the gate. Didn't even necessarily need those beads, but not how you want to see it be used. Odin's just walking up. Have to imagine a cave might follow. Doesn't even need it. He doesn't even have it up. He's just going to walk with that confidence anyway. Cavalry charge has been expended. It's a lot of abilities used for a lot of nothing, but that's not nothing. Left side Phoenix does go down to those Oni minions. That's going to be pivotal for Seismic Shockwaves to grant themselves a bit of alleviated pressure. They can maybe grant themselves a beacon as well, or a nice kill. Reyhum always sticking around a bit too long for their own good. Will fall at the hands of Ganondad.
Whew. Oh man, I had to hold my breath for those snipes. You never know with Zach. He's always gonna go for it.
Players always got these juke shoes going, but JunglePhobic
that's true.
Might also be trying to get some more pressure back on him. Ganondad takes down Nicodreen, and Dragonlordcat returns it right back onto the jungle. There's going to be a bit of a fight underneath the Phoenix. It will go down in the mid lane. SwagMaster has to retreat back with the cavalry, and it's going to grant themselves the safety necessary to come back and fight another day. Reyhum can't say the same. It's a rampage for Susano. Should have never let him get that pick. Seismic Shockwaves need to retreat back in droves, drop the River's Rebuke, but it might not be enough. This man says, you didn't realize I have a W key? I can just continue to walk right at you with that jet stream. The Riptide will grant themselves enough space to dissuade Kingslayers from further aggression. SwagMaster's back on the scene with a nice teleport there, but your team already fled. Might have been a bit of a wasted relic there, unless he wants to try to get a cheeky kill here, a cheeky beacon, I suppose. But standing by himself, not going to be able to quite do too much. 2 Phoenixes at the end of the day stand down for the Kingslayers, matched by 1 off the side of Seismic Shockwaves. It's going to be an interesting fight. It's paced to a climactic finish here, but neither side has the tools to end quite yet.
Yeah, Shockwaves are still sitting with a little bit of a lead, but at the same time, it's not a comfortable one. Everybody's hitting 20, everybody's getting their builds sorted out. 1K at this point in the game, I guess 2K, yeah, it's at 800. They're gonna be working at about an even footing. Kingslayers, it feels like they're getting the golden opportunity every single time they want to get in there. Wyvern has been getting constant 3-man typhoons, and it just hurts. There's nothing you can do with a lead at that point.
And this is going to hurt too. A big no escape though, but at least no one's pulled back in. JunglePhobic now also in a bit of trouble to his credit, but the basics not going to quite do enough shred. Pyromancer's hopping back up, and this is where Seismic Shockwaves comp is so strong. If you just try to go for the poke battle, it's one you can never win. Pyromancer now going the way of Shockwaves grants them a bit more of a hefty gold lead. XP still swinging the way of Kingslayers, but like you said, these 20s are starting to be hit. it's gonna be irrelevant at a certain point. The Titan fight, though, cannot be said the same for. The question is, do you decide to try to put all your chips in, bet it all on black, and run at these Titans and make sure that's where the fight goes? Or do you use it as a distraction, as the Shockwaves are doing, and just go for this FG? It's a risky endeavor. You have members of Kingslayers on both sides. They need to crash down into the wings. Otherwise, just going to let this one go. It's at less than half. It's at a quarter now. Wyverns arrived to the scene, but around the back, the target switch onto Ragemore, always the first to fall, but picking right back up. The Fire Giant still at pretty low. Snipes on board, not going to do too much damage to anyone. Fire Giant, now the apple of Seismic Shockwaves' eye, and the River's Rebuke going to block them out. Can they secure it, though, is the question. Indeed, they will. Shockwaves grant themselves a second FG, but Ganondad will fall and trade a great Phantom Shell there to match the Odin Cage, but can you escape this? One will be pulled back.
No.
The beads were unlocked from the rest. SwagMaster, though, unfortunately, will fall. 2 members down off the Shockwaves. They got the FG, but at what cost?
I think Shockwaves might have been a little too quick on the trigger to get out. Ganondad gets picked off early, but when SwagMaster is stuck in there, there's no ADC on the side of the Kingslayer, so their burn on him is only limited to what abilities they can use. I think there was the opportunity to fight back, but unfortunately the rest of the team just kind of walked their way out.
Yeah.
It's not the wrong call to make, especially when you don't know if you have the opportunity to fight, but it's just unfortunate because I think with that Fire Giant buff, there's the opportunity to pull something out of there without just leaving SwagMaster out to dry. I do think that they made the right decision to keep their carries alive no matter what. That's what's important with the Fire Giant buff. There's not that much that Kingslayers can really push, even if they get a couple victories off the back end of that Fire Giant. You're losing just your front line, which is okay. With that said, it's up to Seismic Shockwaves to get some victories out. The Phoenixes are back up in the dual lane and the mid lane. They need to be taking victories here because this game has been even for quite a while here. They just got their first big advantage in a little bit, and it's up to them to make sure that they're able to maybe not end the game off of this next push, but at least attain some victories that'll help them achieve that.
They got a Primal Fury at the very least. It's something to the name, and I have to agree, they need to have a big push here soon, and this is not meant to be a slight at all to Shockwaves, so I think have been playing very well, but I think a lot of their major victories can be more credited to misplays from the Kingslayers, mispositioning, staying around a bit too long, Ragemore caring about towers too damn much. I think that they need to make sure that they're not getting too comfortable, because yes, they're in the driver's seat, but it's a wheel that Kingslayers could put a hand on at any moment, especially as we pause it up here for a big Phoenix push. We haven't really gotten to see this yet. They took Phoenixes, but it was off small scraps, it was off minions more so than it was actual large-scale engagements. Question is, when do we engage and with what tools? Because Kingslayers certainly look ready.
Yeah, they've set themselves up about as best they could. Their carries have the Fire Giant, but maybe Wyvern was just too strong. They have about as much momentum as you could hope for at this point. They have Fire Giant buffs. They have their carries able to slap down a Phoenix instantly. It's just about when they pull that trigger. Luckily, you didn't lose anybody off that push from Wyvern, so you have a little time to regroup, get your health back up. Ganondad's already at full HP. Where do they try to fight here? I'm assuming it's one of these next couple waves.
They seem very hesitant, and I don't blame them with how Kingslayers have been playing, and especially with Kingslayers' ability to keep you in the perimeter. If things go sideways, that cage, you can bet, is going to be meeting them in the face to keep them inside the bird's range. So it's really all or nothing here. You need to pull that trigger, and if you're doing so, you need to give it everything you have. But Wyvern's waiting in the wings. The ace in the hole has just been so effective. You can see him just waiting for those big typhoons. Going to be a big no escape match with the big banish from the ROM, but the damage cannot be denied. Ganondad and Reyhum will shortly be visiting the grayscale. Ganon's going to go down first. You have a good Inspire heal, but it might not be inspiring enough to save ZakuZz. Throw down some basics before you're taken out by your opposition. Wyvern cuts down another, and there goes Gymkhana thanks to JunglePhobic. It was all or nothing, and Shockwaves come up with nothing. Kingslayers take it all. It's a deicide.
Wyvern played that perfectly, man. He just forced them to make a move no matter what happened. He stood right at the end. If Shockwaves went on him. He's gonna fight back, and the rest of the team's there to back him up. If Shockwaves do nothing, he doesn't expend anything. It's an amazing fight, an amazing defense, and Wyvern just absolutely went crazy.
It was just careful tact and positioning. It paid off in spades. Ganondad's back up in 6 seconds, just in time to watch your Titan fall, and your chances at the finals go down as well. That's gonna be it. 2-0 in favor of the Kingslayers. They're moving on. Pour one out there for my friends on the Shockwaves, but pour one out more importantly for all of their towers. Ragemore just committing absolute war crimes. He will be tried in The Hague soon after. We're going to pull him into a ticket for that, for absolute bullying against those structures. But that being said here, fantastic set to both teams. Ken, break it down. What happened here?
I think that Shockwaves, they played their hearts out here. Like, you cannot deny that they had an amazing fight back. And being able to get that Fire Giant, get the pressure, take some Phoenixes down, especially on a team like the Kingslayers, it really felt like the Kingslayers were forced to play off of the way that Shockwaves wanted to. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the Kingslayers hit a point where they just fought better. They had the Odin, they had the Ares. Wyvern was able to play perfectly off of his front line, and it felt like Shockwaves pressed the issue, just not in the way that they really needed to.
Yeah.
When you have a Susano that's going to be going as big as Wyvern wanted to go, you can't be forcing Phoenixes down. You got to be killing him, man. And although it looked really, really promising for a while there, the Kingslayers, once they rallied, it was a team fight that could not be beaten. I think that Shockwaves did an excellent job getting themselves in that game, and they should not be upset at all about their performance here. They just met a team that rallied themselves to a point that I don't know if there is a team that could beat full form Kingslayers at that point.
Yeah, it's going to be about shutting them down early. We've said it for both games. That's going to be the hope of whoever has got to stand up against these absolute monoliths of the Divine Division. But nonetheless, like you said, a lot of credit should be given to both of these teams. Shockwaves, their finals run might not have come to pass this time around, but nonetheless, I hope they are proud of the performance they put here on the big screen. Y'all did great. I'm proud of you. Big hug and a kiss from us here at the desk. But that being said here, congrats to the Kingslayers. Thank you very much for watching here the Smite Draft League Playoffs Season 3 Divine Division semifinals between the Shockwaves and the Kingslayers. We'll be back up with more Smite Draft League Playoffs content. Keep your eye to the sky for that. I've been Deelo. He's been Ken. We had iNooblet up on the cams. Almighty eye in the sky. Big props to that man, as always. And thank you very much for your time here. You all have a good one.
Bye-bye.
We don't